Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here, live for Joyrider TV. Nice to be back after such a long time. I'm hoping that the new time, potential time of the Q&A is suitable for most viewers. I thought I'd try going out later to see how that works for everybody. Please put it in the comments below if this new later time is good for you or if not. But yeah, it's 11 o'clock here in Greece, so we'll just crack on. And I'd like to say hello to Declan, who is with us live coming in from Sweden. And Declan asks, there was obviously the main event on Joyrider TV has been this massive theatrical performance that went on when I was sailing the Tornado with Marcus, and we had a whole fleet of Hobie 16s who were pursuing us, chasing us down to see if we could stay ahead of the Hobie 16s. Now, this has created quite a lot of discussion about how is it even possible to comprehend that a Hobie 16 could be quicker than a Tornado on any point of sail in any wind strength. So I thought maybe I'd just like to address that now, why I think this was viable to do in the first place is because on a 2-sail reach in very strong wind, the Hobie 16 has got no top speed, meaning that as long as you can stay in control, the Hobie 16 will just keep going faster. If in your experience, wherever you've been sailing, you've always thought the Hobie 16 was a fairly slow boat, a beach boat, it's because you haven't been out on the water with the right sailors in the right wind strength. The Hobie 16, when it's windy, flat water, beam reach to broad reach, the boat is absolutely explosively quick because it has a flat outside surface on the hull, which means it planes on that surface, which means that it has no top speed. Whereas every type of boat which has a traditional hull shape, like the Tornado, does have a inbuilt top speed because of the laws of displacement. Now, that is why I thought this was a viable test. So there we go. That's what was going on there. If you haven't seen the video yet, do check it out, because I would have to say it's probably my best work that I've ever done. And it was a lot of fun to put together. Oh my goodness. And we have actually got more drone footage that was actually presented after the video had been uploaded. So there'll be some more footage coming soon. But in the video, I did say towards the end what was the deliberate mistake. And I'm not sure if I'd like to announce it, because it is quite embarrassing. And I think I will be getting a lot of abuse because of the deliberate, or maybe not deliberate, mistake that went on in the video. So what it was, stay tuned and I will let you know about the deliberate mistake. Yeah, I think it's too soon in the day to let you know. Ask me again in a little while. But yeah, so hello to Declan, hello to Russell, who is towing the C2 to the lake as we speak. Race weekend, very nice. I hope you have some good wind for that race weekend. Hello to is that How in Portugal? Great to have you on board. Okay, I'm just Hope the transmission is coming through all right. It's just a little bit glitchy from my end at the moment. It is absolutely ridiculously hot here in Greece at the moment. So the computer is not running as well as it might be. All right, Declan says this is a safe place. So he feels that I should be all right to announce the mistake that I'd made. Hello to Anonymous Raccoon. Great to have you on board. Hello to Sailing Vessel Wild Rover Sailing in Canada. Great to have you on board. Okay, so I'm going to spill the beans. The deliberate mistake that went on the boat was that I didn't have the scent boards down on the Tornado. Yeah, that meant that we weren't getting any lift, well, very much lift from the leeward hull, which meant the boat was running a lot flatter than it would have been had we had the dagger board, the scent boards down, which would have meant that we would have achieved a higher top speed. So there we go. So I'm just going to start going through the preloaded questions, starting off with a question from Flint Ridge Design Inc., who is asking about any feedback on the Cirrus R2 Formula 18 catamarans. Now, to be honest, I couldn't really say much about the Cirrus R2 specifically, but what I do know is that these boats are extremely well built and very competitive. That is all that I could tell you, because I've never tried one. I've never actually seen one in the flesh, but I do know they're very well built. Cirrus is a French brand, pretty much a one-man show building the boats there. And there is a lot of love that goes into the Cirrus F18s. So well worth a look. If it's a good price and if it's in good condition, then I would say it would be a good choice. If you compared that to the Nacra, the Goodall, any of the other brands of a similar age, I'm sure that it will be just as competitive. All right. Next question actually comes from Declan. This is probably from a little while ago now, because I did miss the Q&A last week. Who says, can you explore the lifespan of a sail from new to old? It's often difficult to know when an upgrade to the sails is warranted. Yeah, it really depends on what you want to do with your sails. If you are, what would we call it? If you are just free sailing. So if your sailing life is just hitting the weekend, going out, sailing fast, having a good time, and not racing, this will be quite difficult to, if you are racing with your sails. And within racing, there's of course different levels at which you could race. Like, for example, if you were going to be sailing at the highest level, like perhaps going to Olympic trials or a world championships in a very competitive fleet, and you were going to really compete to win and your budget allowed, then my best guess would probably, as standard, each year you'd have a new mainsail, and then probably each year you'd probably be running with 2 or 3 new spinnakers and jibs, because the jibs and the spinnakers do get a lot more of a hiding than the mainsail. And as the sail gets older, what happens is the sail stretches, it loses its shape somewhat, which means that you won't get the same performance out of the sail. But in fact, what this means for the less competitive sailor, so if you're not competing sailing, is that if you are sailing in a class where other people are racing, then you should, in theory, be able to pick up 1 or 2 season-old sails from somebody who has been racing, which are in perfectly good shape for the recreational sailor, for a really good price. But for the recreational sailor, when is the time to replace the sail? I would say it's when things start not perhaps breaking, or when the sail starts failing. It will start failing in a fairly minor way, like perhaps some small tears might appear, or if you've got a sail made of mylar where the sail's been creased, some cracks might start appearing in the sail, and eventually these creases become cracks, become holes, and the individual holes can be repaired with sail repair tape. But once you've got quite a few of these holes in the sail, it is definitely worth thinking about either getting the sail professionally repaired, or, if your budget allows, replacing it. But what you'll find with the mainsail and the jib is the bottom part of the sail wears a lot quicker than the top part of the sail. So you could, after a season, if you've started getting cracks in your sail, take your sail to a sailmaker, say, is it possible you can replace some of the panels? How much would it cost? And then compare that cost to the cost of a new sail. And I would think that getting it repaired is a very good idea, even if you are thinking of getting a new sail, because then you've got a very good spare that you can use as well. And if you're a if you're going to travel to go sailing, it is definitely worth building up a catalogue of spares so that you can take with you. Because if you're traveling and you arrive at your destination for sailing and then you have something that doesn't work, like perhaps you put the jib up, sheet in, and a small rip appears, much better to have a spare so that you can actually hit the water as you had intended. All right, so I'm just going to go on to the next. I hope that's all right, Declan, as an answer there. But I would say in the real world, recreational sailing, you'd probably, a mainsail, if you're using it every single weekend, I would think you'd probably get about, if you look after it well, wash it, if you've been sailing in salt water, keep it out of the sun as much as possible, I'd think you'd get as many as 8 years out of a mainsail. And from a jib, significantly less, like maybe 3 or 4 years out of a jib. There we go. That's not bad. Okay. So next preloaded question comes from Mart, who says, I was wondering why loosening, this is a Hobie 16 question, why loosening the jib halyard would be helpful to reduce the power. Does it reduce the pressure on the bows? All right, so if we look at the boat from either in front or behind, doesn't matter. So there's our boat looking from behind, and with the rig in the upright position, it's presenting all of the sail area to the wind. And not only that, but with the rig in this upright position, we can get more tension on the leech of the mainsail through the main sheet. When we pull the main sheet in, we're getting a lot of tension in there, which is really harnessing as much of the power from the sail as possible. Now, when we loosen the jib halyard, or we loosen the rig tension, what happens there is the mast's going to lean off to leeward somewhat, which means we are losing, because the mast's leaning, we are losing some of that sail area that we're presenting to the wind. And also when we bring the main sheet in, especially with a Hobie 16, where we've got a very low boom anyway, when we bring the main sheet in, we're not going to be getting the same amount of tension in the leech of the mainsail. So we're going to be sailing with a much looser leech, the back edge of the mainsail, which is going to be reducing power for us. What that is also going to do, referring back to your question, is less. Yes, it's going to take some of the pressure off the bows as well, because if that's the boat looking from the side, as we loosen the rig tension off, the mast is going to come back more, and we're actually going to be getting the weight of the rig more over the back of the boat, which is going to help us to lift the bows out of the water. So by having the mast back more in a stronger wind, if we're going to be sailing a lot of fast reaches and downwind sailing, it's going to help to lift the bows up, because just the weight of the rig further back is going to be lifting, pulling against the bows and preventing us from sticking the nose in. So there we go. I hope that helps. All right, just maybe not. Cool. The computer is as glitchy as an old goose this evening, but I understand the transmission is coming through nicely. You're just checking in with everybody who's checking in. So Anonymous Raccoon says, have you ever tried crew sheeting of the mainsail? Yes, I have. Now, so it is quite popular, or if not even common, for the crew to take the main sheet when sailing a performance catamaran like an F-18. Almost everybody is doing it, having the crew playing the main sheet, and it is incredibly efficient. But for me, I'm not having the crew sheeting the main sheet as standard, because I'm sailing with so many different people, and to be honest, not everybody I would trust with the main sheet. May sound harsh, which means that I would rather, as standard, just play the main sheet myself and know exactly where I am in terms of power. But if I was sailing in a regular team, training and getting out on the water a lot, I would certainly get the main sheet to the crew, so that then they can use both arms on the main sheet, and the mainsail can then be in the perfect position at all times, using the power of both arms to sheet in. Very efficient indeed. So yes, there we go. Hello to Benny. Great to have you on board. Right, EC's on with us. Hello, EC. Going to ask about racing, but yeah, we flipped the Hobie 18. The mast, filled with water and inverted almost immediately, hit the bottom of the lake. Just skipping forwards. We managed to get it on its side, but couldn't raise it out of the water, despite one person on the righting line and one person on a righting pole. Is it possible / advisable to seal an 18 mast to keep the water out? Yeah, as standard, I would have thought that all masts, like the comp tip masts or the straight aluminium extrusions, should be sealed, because it is a major safety point. because as you found there, if your mast takes water inside, once there's water in the mast, especially with the bigger boats, they will invert very quickly, which means there is a much greater risk of getting trapped under the boat, which of course nobody wants that. And then getting the boat back upright can be near impossible without the assistance of some sort of motorboat to drag the boat up, back up onto its side and then upright. Can you seal the mast? Yes, it is possible, but there are so many places where the mast might be leaking. So what we would generally do, and to be quite honest, we haven't done so well with getting the masts totally sealed to such a degree that this year at Wildwind Sailing Holidays, we've actually bought 7 new masts for our Tigers and Pacifics, because the old ones had just become not watertight, so they were leaking. But what I would do in a real world situation, if this is the mast, is, this might seem quite radical, but this is what we're going to look at. I would drill a hole towards the bottom of the mast. Now, the mast will have a plug in the bottom, which will be about a foot from the bottom. So I would drill the hole higher up than where the boom is, right in the center of the mast. Like, I would make the hole 5 millimeters, because this is the regular size of a small pop rivet, which we're going to use to seal that hole later on. And then, having drilled a hole in the mast, this is with the mast down, by the way, I would then go over all of the fittings, all of the rivets, top and bottom, any joints in the mast, anything at all. I would give, like you would if you were testing a bicycle inner tube for leaks, I would cover it with soapy water and then take a pump, like, again, a bike pump with, what you could actually use is take a biro like this, just use this as a tube, seal the little hole, of course, take the inside out, put the biro into the tube, other end on the pump, and then start pumping air into the mast. And then from where you've put the soap on the mast, you should get some bubbles appearing somewhere, which is going to give you some indication of where it is leaking. And then once you've found where it's leaking, the ideal is to replace the pop rivets. And then when you're replacing pop rivets, what we want to do is use some sealing caps to seal it when you're putting the new rivets in. So what a sealing cap would look like, we're going 3D here. Would be kind of like this kind of thing, like it's like, so it's got a top to it, and then this is a sealed part that goes inside the mast, and then your rivet, which has that bit, and then that bit, and then there's the bit that looks like that, that goes inside. And then when you pull the rivet, this seals the mast. You should also use some sort of barrier paste when putting rivets in the mast, which prevent the chemical reaction between the stainless steel and the aluminium of the mast. But sealing your mast is a difficult procedure, especially if you've got a lot of leaking rivets. And I would say if you do this test with the pump and it's bubbling everywhere, then perhaps consider getting some professional help to do the sealing, because that is a big job. All right, we've got Christian on board. Good to see you. I'm working on the hydrofoils today. Great stuff. Looking forward to seeing the results of what happens there. All right, Rob T's with us. Rob says, new to the Hobie 16. I used the garden bag writing solution for the first time on Wednesday. Time to go fund you in the upcoming race. Where can we donate? Now, this is an absolutely great question. So if you didn't know, I have launched a crowdfunding page because in a couple of weeks, I'm going to the Tornado World Championships, and the procedure of going to the Tornado World Championships is going to be remarkably expensive. So I set up a crowdfunding, and thanks very much, firstly, to everybody who's already contributed to the fund. It is so generous of all of you to give up some of your hard-earned cash to help me go to the Worlds. I really do appreciate it very much. In the description of this video below, there is a link to the GoFundMe page. So just click on that and that will take you on the path. Thank you very much. All right, so continuing. All right, we've got Lexa on board, who says, what is your opinion on the Top Cat F2? To be honest, I'm being honest now, I haven't sailed a Top Cat F2, but they look very good for the purpose. If you're looking for a boat which is going to get you out there, it's going to be solid, reliable, easy to sail, very simple, perhaps not the fastest boat on the water, but certainly a lot of fun and very durable and well made. The Top Cat brand certainly seems to be ticking all those boxes. Yeah, so I would say nice boat. If you're looking at buying one, see if you can arrange a test sale. I think maybe if that is possible, that is really going to help you to make your decision. Of course, over here on Joyrider TV, it might seem quite biased that the Hobie 16 is the only boat that's worth a go. But that is only because there are more Hobie 16s in the world than all other catamarans put together ever made. There are more Hobie 16s, which, and the 16's a great ride. But I think the Top Cat is certainly going to provide you with a lot of good times. Yeah, very nice, well-made boat. All right, and in saying this, Wild Rover Sailing says, I know Hobie 16s are your bag, but I'd love to see you wring the neck of a getaway at some point, see what it's capable of. I tell you what, I would love to get my hands on a getaway to sit, because I'm also quite intrigued to see what the getaway is capable of. Because, of course, this year we have got going on the Getaway Speed Stick Challenge. Yeah, so we've got the Speed Stick going on. If you're lucky enough to be a getaway sailor, or even if you can rent a getaway, see how fast you can go on the getaway, get on the Speed Stick, and when we get to the end of the year, the fastest time speed for a getaway is going to win a Melcheski Composites Pro Joyrider tiller extension. It's the biggest prize we've ever had. Love to. All right, we have got on board Armour Ideon. Just wanted to say thanks for the videos. Very welcome. It's a pleasure. Been binging on them the last few days, catching up on some tips for racing as I'm pretty new and have a regatta coming up this weekend. Great stuff. Good luck in the regatta. Just I'd say if you're new to regatta sailing, the biggest tip would be go out with a plan and know where you're going. So when you get out on the race course, find out where the race course is before the race starts, because it doesn't matter how well you're sailing the boat. If you're sailing the boat in the wrong direction, you're not going to do very well. So know where to go. And then tip number 2, stay out of trouble. So on the start line, find space. So I would generally suggest starting halfway down the start line rather than trying to start the committee boat end. So you've got some space and then you can stretch your legs from there and off you go. But good luck. All right, we've got Eric on board. I think it's Eric, the E-Town. Take the mast. Oh, this is for the sealing. Take the mast off the boat, dunk it in the water and watch for the bubbles. Fill those holes with epoxy and recheck until no more bubbles. This is a much better method actually than the one that I suggested. In fact, I'm going to try that myself because we have still got some leaking masts in the boat park. Okay, we've got Mr. Tony KP in Denmark, I believe. Hello, everyone. Nice to have you on board, as always. All right, Arno's with us from Canada. He says, which 6-to-1 do you prefer? The older style Harken or the newer style Harken with the Ratchomatic? Okay, now, if I was in the workshop right now, I could actually show you what these different blocks look like. But with the Harken, if you didn't know, is generally like the industry standard of the best main sheet blocks you can have for your catamaran. Now, there is 2 styles of Harken blocks for the bottom for these triple blocks. And in fact, this also is answering a question in the preloaded from GazzaGaz666, who says, I'd like to get Harken blocks for my main sheet on the Hobie 15. What are the best to get for size? So what we want for anything up to 16 feet long is we want a 6-to-1 purchase system, which would be the bottom block, which would be 3 blocks like this with, how am I going to draw this? With a cleat, a jammer for the rope with a fair lead over the top. And then the top block would be a triple. And then very nice. Now, the blocks that we want to use generally are 57 millimeter blocks. This is pretty standard for the type of boats that we're sailing, which we're talking about on Joyrider TV. Now, back to Arno's question. Which type of bottom block should you get? Now, firstly, before we even talk about which Harken, if you can afford it, definitely go for a Harken. They are really that much better than any other type of block for what we're doing here. A good thing to do if you are looking to replace your blocks or to buy some blocks is look on Craigslist, look on eBay, look on any secondhand websites where they're selling boat parts, and you can pick up some decent, not too heavily used main sheet blocks for not too much money. When I say not too much money, I'm saying for the whole thing, if you could get the whole thing for about $200, then that is a very good price. Because you can justify this expense, even if you've got a very, like a boat you got for free even. because the main sheet really is one of the key elements of the user interface of the boat. The main sheet and the tiller extension, user interface. Then we've got the jib sheet for the crew, but not quite as essential to spend a load of money on it. But the main sheet, important to have a good one. Now, as Arno has asked, there are two different types of Harken. If you're not familiar, Harken is spelt like this. There's the older style, which is a very stainless steel looking block, which has, most main sheet blocks will have, this is a ratchet in the middle. What the ratchet does is it has some sort of grooves on it, and it only turns one way, which means when you sheet in, it will make a clicking noise. And when you sheet out, this is going to grip the rope and stop the rope from going out too quickly. The older style, these stainless steel looking Harken cleats, have got a switchable ratchet. So on the side of the block, there's a switch. You can turn the ratchet on or off. So if the wind is very light, you can turn the ratchet off and the rope will go out really easily. And then if the wind is stronger, you can put the switch on and it'll be easier to hold. Now, the newer type of Harkens are the auto ratchets, which are more of a black plastic looking block. And these are auto ratchets, which means that the way it's meant to work is when this middle sheave of the block is under a certain amount of tension, then the ratchet engages. And then when it's not under that much tension, the ratchet will disengage, letting the rope go out much easier. So that's what we're looking at. Which is best? I prefer the switchable ratchet blocks on the main sheet because it's either windy or it isn't. If it's windy, you put the ratchet on. If it isn't windy, you turn the ratchet off. That's pretty much it. It's not like a spinnaker block, which does different things. Like with a spinnaker sheet block, which should be an auto ratchet, you want that block to disengage when you're jibing or dropping the spinnaker, so it doesn't restrict the drop. But with a main sheet, the main sheet goes in, it goes out. It's very one-way thing. Do you want the main sheet to go out easier? If yes, release the ratchet there. There we go. All right, we've got Cux Ollie on board in Northern Germany. Great to have you with us. Anonymous Raccoon says, thanks, makes a lot of sense. All right, yes, I also revert to taking the main sheet when sailing with a less familiar crew. All right. So where are we here in the live chat? Declan says, have you ever filled a mast with expanding foam? No, never tried it. Perhaps I would consider it with an old mast, which I wasn't too worried if I absolutely ruined. But this is going to be, does expanding foam absorb water over time? That's a question. But no, I haven't. All right. Thanks very much to the E-Town for the donation for the super sticker. Thank you very much. If anybody else is interested in super stickers, just look at the bottom of the live chat and it just shows that you appreciate the good information that is coming your way right now. So thank you very much. All right. Anonymous Raccoon says it needs to be the right foam. My sister made this mistake and the foam just absorbed and held the water. There we go. All right, just going down. Masts, we're still mast sealing. All right, we've got Russell on board. Nice to have you with us, Russell. Russell says, we see you sail Hobie Cats and Tornadoes over here in the UK. The Dart is popular. Have you sailed one? And what were your thoughts? Well, funny you should ask. But my first catamaran was a Dart 18, and I sailed the Dart 18 pretty much every single day for getting on for 10 years while I was quite young. And I absolutely loved the Dart 18. The Dart 18, if you didn't know, is one of the more versatile catamarans. It's not one of the more performance boats, but it's versatile in that it's one of the only boats which truly is equal sailing single-handed or with a crew. If it's very well designed and yet so simple. If you're sailing with a crew, you have a jib. If you're not sailing with a crew, you don't have a jib, and the performance of the boat is very equal. It's very simple, easy to sail, but difficult to sail at a high level. And the racing of the Dart 18s still is some of the hottest racing in Europe. I'm not sure how it is in the rest of the world, but in Europe, it's some of the biggest fleets. And this year, I think coming up very soon, there'll be the Dart 18 World Championships in the north of England. And that is really going to be a hot ticket this summer in the UK. All right, so we have got on board QWERTY or Ty. I was given a Hobie 15, and at high speeds, I know this one, the rudders start making a humming noise. Is this caused by loose screws or mounting mechanism? Yeah, on the Hobie 15, the humming noise that you get sounds like you're being chased by some sort of whale. It is a really good deep noise that you get on the Hobie 15. No, it's not due to any sort of mechanical issue. It is due to the manufacture of the rudder blades on the Hobie 15. These are what Hobie call Lexan rudder blades generally, which is a kind of very heavy plastic, which almost feels like metal when you lift one. And the trailing edge of the rudder blade, when you get it up to speed, it vibrates. And then this vibration, the sound of it, is then amplified by the hull. The hull is like an amplifier, which makes the noise really loud. I've never really tried getting rid of this noise on the Hobie 15, but what you could try doing is just taking some sandpaper and just gently rubbing down the trailing edge of the rudder blade, just to make sure it's a flat trailing edge and not a razor sharp point. Because the more pointed it is, that's going to vibrate more. Whereas if it's more squared off, it's not going to be able to vibrate as much. So there we go. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Anonymous Raccoon says, do you sail monohulls much at the moment? If so, what's your favorite? Yeah, not so much at the moment. In fact, I haven't sailed a monohull this year. But if I had to say what my favorite was in the past couple of years, I would have to say my favorite monohull has been, the foiling laser. If you haven't seen a foiling laser, just put a Google search in for foiling laser, and one of my videos will come up. It is so much fun. It is probably the easiest way to get into foiling monohull sailing, and it really is a great feeling. All right, the E-Tone says, what is your favorite action cam? I'm stuck between a GoPro Max, Hero 11 or Insta 360. Okay, the my current quiver of cameras that I'm using for the videos are my GoPro Max, which was donated by Tyler from the States. Thank you very much again for that. The GoPro Max is my everyday camera because it works as a regular camera, but also as a 360 camera. So you can just stick it somewhere on the boat. You don't have to worry about which way it's pointing. And then afterwards, in editing, you can decide where you want to look at, which is so convenient, although it does increase the editing time. The other camera that I'm using most is a GoPro Hero 8, which I would assume the Hero 11 is the updated version of that. If you don't want the 360 capability, I would say the Hero 11 would be the one to go for because it's a more compact unit. And especially if you are putting a camera on your helmet, you want the most compact unit you can get, because getting under the boom with the GoPro Max on the helmet, you've become quite tall, and you have to really focus on not whacking that on the boom. But yeah, so I would say if you don't want the 360, go for the 11. Now, the Insta360 does exactly the same as what the GoPro Max does, but the benefit the Insta has is that I believe it has better editing software, which means you can actually track a subject in your video, which makes the editing much quicker and easier with the Insta360. So if I was going to buy one right now and I didn't already have something, I would probably buy the Insta360 for the 360, but I would go for the Hero 11 if I wasn't worried about the 360 element. There we go. All right, and Marcus is on board. Great to hear from you, Marcus. Marcus is part of the Tornado number 2 club. His sale number is Germany number 2. Of course, Bad Boy 94, sale number GBR number 2. And Marcus is currently at the European Championships in Austria. He says, we miss you. I miss you too. Hope you're having a great event. And it's been a good bit of wind. I look forward to seeing you in Italy in a few weeks' time. Great stuff. All right, so Wild Rover Sailing agrees and says Harken is the best return on your investment. Yeah, with the main sheet blocks especially, you do get what you pay for. You could get a cheaper set of blocks, but what you'll find is they don't last as well as the Harkens. Harkens are the tried and tested industry standard main sheet blocks for the boats that we're talking about. All right, we've got Bruce on board. Hello from Dubai. I'm hoping to send you some moth or wasp content through soon, and also hoping to send some A-class context. Great stuff. I look forward to seeing that. Thanks very much in advance. Okay. So I've had a super sticker in from Declan. Thanks very much for that, Declan. Very kind of you and much appreciated. So just to let you know, where your donations are going. If you've donated into the crowdfunding for the Tornado Worlds, all of that is going into the Tornado Worlds to pay for everything that goes into that event. If you're donating anywhere else, like on Patreon or channel memberships or through super stickers, anything like that, then that what you're donating there is going to get reinvested into how I'm going to continue to be making the videos. So my big investment that I've got to make, which is coming up, is to get a new computer, because I am slightly concerned that my current model of MacBook is on its last legs, and how long it's going to last, I do not know. So thanks very much for the continued support, because let's keep this going. All right. So Wild Rover says the keel on a Viper screams at speed. You know how fast you're going by the frequency of resonance. Oh, yes. Much like on a Tiger, in fact. All right. At this stage in the game, if I could just say, could we have no further questions in the live chat? Because we've been going 50 minutes, still got quite a few preloaded questions to talk about, and it's almost midnight here in Greece, so should probably look at wrapping this up fairly soon. All right, we got Mason on board in Virginia. I love foiling lasers, looks so cool and really fun. Yet it really is as much fun as it looks. Well worth putting on your must try list. All right, we've got Scott dropping it in the slot at Cultus Lake, Oregon, is it? USA. He just says hello to Joe and the Joyrider TV community. Sweet tornado chase yesterday, and Hobie 16 double release dismount. Yeah, that was very cool. Declan recommends in the cameras to also check out the DJI Osmo. More stable than the GoPro and good value. Great stuff. Okay, so back to the preloaded questions. Next one is from Taylor Michael, who's got a Hobie 14 Turbo, and he says he's got a little nick, like a chip, in the trailing edge of his rudder. How would you recommend fixing that? So what I would do is, before you do any repairs with fiberglass, gel coat, epoxy, anything, you need to just take some sandpaper and make sure that there are no loose things that are still there where you want to put the new material onto. So if on the trailing edge of your rudder blade, you've got like a little chip here, you just want to make sure that there's no loose fiberglass, anything that could flake off, because otherwise if you put anything onto that, it's not going to be solid and your repair will come off with that bit of fiberglass or gel coat which is sticking it onto. So if you've got a bit of a big flaky bit, what you could even do on the trailing edge is take something like a Stanley knife and just trim it off, just like the surrounding area like this, and make sure there's nothing flaky near to where you're going to be doing your repair. Once you've done that, I would take some sort of we use these laminated cards, but basically like a business card. Take an old credit card or something and tape it to the other. That doesn't work. Tape it to the other side of the rudder blade, so you've got something that you're going to be building on top of. And then making sure that you've got rid of all the loose stuff, clean it first, use acetone to clean the area. And then for rudder blades, trailing edges, I'm not an expert at fiberglass repairs or anything, but to get the job done, I would use some epoxy resin, but with some thickening micro bubbles to make it thicker into like a paste. So it's kind of like a little bit thicker than mayonnaise. What would it be like? Like a peanut butter type consistency almost, but without the lumps. Smooth peanut butter. And then once you've put in enough micro bubbles into epoxy, got it nice and thick, then you just want to put it over that area, just bearing in mind that anything you put on which goes above the actual level of the rudder blade, you're going to have to sand down. That might take a little while. So just pay attention to that. And then let it set. Once it's set, you might even need to use a knife or a hacksaw just to trim any excess off the back to get it to the same level as the original rudder blade, and then sand it down and off you go. That is what I would do. All right, next one. This is from Logan Fortier regarding the Hobie 16. Which hole should you put the jib onto on the forestay? I would say on the bottom. Lower down on, let's draw this actually. So if that's our forestay, at the bottom of the forestay, this is not going to be to scale. We've got a chain plate stay adjuster like this. And so the lower down you put the jib, the more it's going to make a tight foot and a loose leech. The higher up you put the jib on this adjuster. Sorry, let's just have a bit of context. Here's the mast. Here's the shrouds. There's the boat. Bad picture. Sorry about that. But there's the bridle wires. The higher up you put it, you're going to get a tighter leech, looser foot. Now, what we want generally in a moderate amount of wind is even tension in the foot of the sail and the leech of the sail. That would usually be in hole number 3 from the bottom. And then if the wind was going to be particularly windy, like double trapezing conditions where you're trying to lose power all of the time, I would certainly say go one hole down on the adjuster here, because what that is going to do is open up the leech of the jib, helping you to spill some power out of the jib. And like when you're sailing upwind, you still want to have a lot of tension in the jib sheet, but you want to have the leech a bit more open when it's windy, so you're not getting overpowered. There we go. All right, so last question in the preloaded. This is from Richard, who's sailing on the Rockport Reservoir in Utah. He says, on a broad reach, this is some exciting stuff. This was going on in the big video this week. If you get hit by a gust and the windward hull is at an angle of over 45 degrees, so you are absolutely cooking the goose, hull in the air, what is your steering? Keep it steady, point it into the wind, or try going downwind a bit further and risk digging in your hull. I think you typically advise steering off and loosening the main sheet. Now, it depends what. So let's just draw this in a point of sail kind of context. So if this is the wind, we're starting off here on a kind of speed run type point of sail, and that we've got the hull in the air. If we get hit by a big gust and we want to go as fast as we possibly can, perhaps we're doing a speed competition, then that is when I would suggest ultimate speed, hull in the air, loosen the main sheet. And what loosening the main sheet is going to allow you to do is turn more downwind without digging the bow in. So if you're going to turn more downwind, whenever it's windy, you have to loosen the main sheet. If you don't loosen the main sheet and you go to turn more downwind, you're going to stick the nose of the boat into the water. So hull in the air, gusts coming just before the gust hits, loosen the main sheet, more downwind, you'll go faster, pull the main sheet in again. However, if you've got the hull in the air and you get hit by a gust and you're like, I don't think we can make it if we bear away, then in that case, head up. Heading up is going to take some of that heeling force off the boat. But what you must be aware of is when you head up like that, especially if you're heading up quite hard, it's going to send the crew, especially, flying forwards, because the boat is suddenly going to slow down. They're going to go flying forwards. So if you think that is on the cards, get them to have a good wide stance on the trapeze, feet quite far apart, and maybe have them holding onto the traveller line to anchor them to the back of the boat. And if you can, warn them when you're going to head up. But a lot of the time, you haven't got the time to warn them that we're about to do that. But there we go. So that's what I would say. Thanks for the question, Richard. Good luck with that. All right. So just finishing off with the live chat. Wild Rover says, in response to repairing your trailing edge, apply a thin coat of neat epoxy before the thickened. Nice. I like this. Let the neat epoxy cure to tacky before applying the thickened, and it will adhere better. This is solid gold advice. I'm actually going to do this myself next time I'm fixing one. Thanks very much for that, Wild Rover Sailing. That is a very good tip.